few weeks ago, I met up with the 4th graders from Lincoln Street Elementary School.
What mountain are we going to climb today? Yell it.
Mount Major.
What mountain?
Mount Major.
Is everyone really excited?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's really fun, but it's tiring.
I followed the 4th graders up the mountain for what was for some of them their first hike.
Oh my God, it's beautiful!
So come on and join me and the 4th graders from Lincoln Street as we climb Mount Major in this episode of Exeter Outdoors. Before the hike, Dave Anderson from the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire's Forests came to Lincoln Street School to talk to the students.
Estill. So I'm not as cool as Kevin Skarupa on Channel 9, the weatherman, because I can't put you on Channel 9, but I can put you on TV, and this is our videographer. So all of you wave. No. So, all right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, you'll be on Exeter TV, you won't be statewide, and I don't have all kinds of fabulous prizes and things to give away, but I do have a lot of information because I'm a professional tree hugger, and for almost 30 years I've been going out into the forest, and I go on radio and television, newspaper, and write magazines and travel all over the state, and one of the funnest things I get to do is work with school groups who are going up and down Mount Major. And I'll give you some information here about the mountain, and we'll go through it real fast. I'll ask you to hold your questions, and then I'll give this for the parent chaperones a little after this. So here's another thing. The glacier came from the west 12,000 years ago, and all over New Hampshire rounded off the tops of the mountains, and then as it went over the top, it plucked off boulders and it dumped it. And so geologists call this whole phenomenon Stas and Lee. This is college level stuff. Rounds it off, plucks it off, and dumps it. Next slide. So can you see how ice sliding over a solid rock would pluck boulders and dump it, and creates cliffs on the east-facing side because the glacier came from the west. And those boulders are called talus. Next one. And all on the east side of Mount Major, there's piles and piles of rock down low. Next one. And so there's a lot of animals that are adapted to live in talus slopes, and they fly around the lake like this red-tailed hawk. When you're on top of Mount Major, sometimes you're above the height that the birds are sailing around. It's pretty cool. Next one. There's a talus cave down on the east side that's 35 feet long. And it's about 8 feet high. Next one. So there are many species of wildlife in New Hampshire, animals that live in those rocky boulder piles like that. But all over New Hampshire, mountains are rounded on the west and northwest side, and there's steep cliffs on the east and southeast side. Next one. So here's a cave entrance in the talus slope. What lives in here? Next one. Porcupines live in there. They love that. And also the next one. Bobcats. So those special habitats work really well for animals that need a hard place for a den. Sometimes fishers, sometimes bears, other animals, coyotes will sometimes use rock dens. It's a pretty cool spot. Also in the wintertime, you can get on those south-facing slopes and you can bask and warm up. So it has a really important function for wildlife. Shelter and warmth in the winter. Next one. A little bit of cultural history. Do you study New Hampshire history in 4th grade? Yeah. Okay, so you guys should ace this. Here's a line of stones in the woods. Did the glacier put that there? No? Yeah. People did? Next slide. So Mount Major was discovered really early by Europeans. The British had forts at Merry Meeting Bay and also at what's now Alton Bay. And they named Mount Major on some of the earliest maps in the 1760s, before the American Revolution in 1776. Next one. And that's what New Hampshire looked like at that time. 80% of New Hampshire had been cleared for farms. Next one. And sheep pastures and cattle pastures climbed many of the high hills in New Hampshire. And they were cutting away spruce, and they were pasturing livestock higher and higher on New Hampshire's mountains. Next one. So the glacier didn't pile these stones. They were piled up for another reason, and I think you already guessed it. Next one. What do you think? Farms. Exactly. Next one. To keep sheep from going into the forest. This is from my backyard. These are my sheep that I used to raise when my kids were about your age. But sheep were most numerous, like 6 or 7 sheep for every man, woman, and child in New Hampshire in the 1830s, 1840s. So about 50 years after the turn of the century, in 1800 to about 1835, 1840 was the peak of agricultural clearing, and when sheep outnumbered people. Next one. There's some old cellars of early farms in the Belknap Range. Next one. But today all the forest has come back, and it's really rare to see open ground up there. Most of the Belknaps was used as summer pasture because it wasn't good for growing crops because it's too rocky. Next one. There's also a really cool old granite quarry where they drilled holes in the rock and they quarried off stone and they used it to build a railroad right-of-way because there's a railroad along the lake and there's a road along the lake. So you can see places where people were actually harvesting granite instead of crops. Next one. You'll see this along the trail. It was a gate and the tree just grew around the cable. So now it's embedded in the tree. Next one. I bet you find this. Watch for it. Next one. And then here's another sign that people are there. It's not a good idea to carve into trees, but it's interesting that so many people hike along here that all this kind of tree along the trail, smooth gray bark from a beech tree, people have carved their initials in. So that's not helping the tree at all, but next one. Some wildlife that live in the Belknap Range. You can just flip right through these. That's an osprey. Lives in wetlands, eats fish. That's a great blue heron. They build big stick nests up in dead trees and wetlands in the Belknaps. Next one. Yeah, deer, probably next. They're the most common creatures in this kind of hardwood forest that's most typical for New Hampshire, beech, birch. That's a little game bird, timberdoodle. It's got a long bill for eating earthworms in wet ground. So next one. They live in openings in the forest. They need sunshine, so they don't live in dark, shady places. So these are habitats. You're familiar with that term? Next one. That's a gray fox. That's not a red fox. They live in the forest. Next one. They live in rocky places. They live in rocky places like that up on ridges. Next one. Yeah. Black bears in the Belknaps. Yep. Here's where he climbed a tree, so the black bear left claw marks on the tree. Next one. Yeah, next one. And they live in swamps. So the Belknap Range in New Hampshire, which is 50 square miles, almost 48.5 square miles, has all those species living there. It's a really nice thing to know about when you're hiking up there. Next one. A little bit about forests. We'll see how much you know about trees. I saw a really good joke on my way in coming into Exeter. There was a sign out there and it said, "How do trees feel in the spring?" So what's the answer, Miss Estel? They're relieved. Ha ha. Look at the forest on Mount Major. The lower part is light green, the upper part is dark green. So the lower part is broadleafed, deciduous woods that lose their leaves, and the upper part are conifers. Evergreens, and we'll look at why, because you'll see this, and you'll be able to tell yourself how far up the mountain you are, because the most frequently asked question is, are we almost there yet? How far do we have to go? So let's keep going.
With this new knowledge, the 4th graders were ready for their hike. We were really lucky to get such a sunny, beautiful spring day for our hike. And some of the 4th graders couldn't wait to get to the top. Students and their parents followed the blue blazes, past giant boulders left from the glacial period, and climbed up and over roots all the way to the top. Volunteers from the Forest Society were on hand to answer any questions about the Belknap Range, Mount Major, or anything else on the hike.
What's your favorite thing you've seen today?
The camera. Probably the trees that are like curving, like from the ground and go up.
These kids, they go wicked fast when we go uphill.
Or climb up it. Where are you filming us?
Yeah, what do you guys like about the hike so far?
Good.
Enjoying it?
Yeah, it's really fun. But it's tiring. Yeah. Survival. Whoa! That's awesome!
As we neared the top, the trees began to change, and the terrain got a little bit steeper.
That one slide that. This is the worst, I guess.
What do you guys think about the hike?
Are we almost done?
I think so.
It was fun but stressful. Gabby's turn.
What do you guys think of the view?
I love it. So pretty. Oh my god! It's amazing. But it was a hike to get up there. Gabby, you can see the whole lake from here.
Once everybody reached the summit, they enjoyed beautiful views of Lake Winnipesaukee below and climbed the remains of Mr. Phippin's hut, built in 1925 to shelter hikers from harsh weather.
What was your favorite part about the hike?
Well, seeing like the waterfalls and all this like erosion and all that cool stuff. It's really cool. I also stood on top of the house and I put my finger up and then I was like the highest point on the mountain.
What do you guys like this view up here?
Oh, it's amazing. It looks like a painting. I dared myself when I was like halfway up to not look behind me. That way it'd be a surprise when I got up and I almost screamed. It was so beautiful. Climbing rocks. It's all been hiking since I was young, so it was kind of easy. But it feels nice to be up here. Tough, it was all fun. The breeze is nice, the view is nice. I slipped and fell a couple times and I got that one. But overall it was really fun, but it was still tough.
The hike, organized by Lincoln Street School and the Forest Society, was a great opportunity for the kids to engage with what they were learning about in the classroom. And it was awesome to see the kids really connecting with nature. If you're looking to turn off those screens and get some fresh air, why not take your family up to Mount Major for a hike?